Hello class 9th. So today we are going to start the last lesson of this term, lesson number 5, the Mauryan Empire. So before I start the chapter, as we have finished lesson number 4, which is the later Vedic civilization. So later Vedic civilization, it continued and the various complexities it came in the society. You have read about the rise of Jainism and Buddhism. There was a lot of change in the society. So when the Mauryan Empire, it sprang up, before that there were rise of the independent kingdoms which were regarded as Mahajanpas. So there were 16 Mahajanpada at the time which was running and which are basically very powerful, and one among them was Magad. So Magad became a very important place, very important Mahajanpad we can say. It sprang up near the Ganga Yamuna Doab area, which is present day Bihar and UP area. The foundation of Mauryan Empire was a unique event in Indian history. Its importance lay in the circumstances when it was achieved. The person who led the foundation of Mauryan Empire, so the credit goes to Chandragupta Maurya and Chanakya. You have heard about Chanakya a lot. In 6th class also you read about the Mauryan Empire. So the condition when that both of them, they don't belong to a royal family, they don't have a big army, and they have defeated such a big Nanda ruler. So the circumstances at which they achieved their success, that were very important. It was done against a challenging condition existing because of foreign rule in northwest. There was foreign attack done by Alexander at the time. The Nanda ruler was very powerful, but they overthrew and cope up with all that, and they led the foundation of the great mighty Mauryan Empire. So before we'll start, I'll share the dynasty tree of Magad. So the first important ruler of Magad was Bimbisara. He was the first Magad ruler. He was succeeded by son Ajatashatru. After Ajatashatru, there was Shishu Naik dynasty, that means the Nag dynasty was been there. And then the Nanda dynasty came up in the Magad, which was founded by Mahapadmanand. Then succeeded by his son Dhananand, who was a very tyrannical ruler, who was very bad ruler, and his tyrannical rule was ended by Chandragupta Maurya, who led the foundation of the Mauryan Empire. So Chandragupta Maurya with Chanakya led the foundation of Mauryan Empire, and after that succeeded by Bindusara. Now don't get confused with the first ruler of Magad, Bimbisara and Bindusara. First was Bimbisara and Chandragupta's son was Bindusara. There was a story that Chandragupta Maurya, when Bindusara was about to born, his wife, who was pregnant at the time, she has ate Chandragupta's food, and Chanakya, he used to mix a bit of poison in Chandragupta Maurya food so that he will be prone of, he get addicted with the poison, and if anybody try to poison the king, he will not have any effect over his body. But Chandragupta don't know, and by lovingly he has given that potion to his wife. As his wife is not prone to the poison, she immediately lost her breath, and Bindusara was been saved after killing her. So there was a point mark, or there was a Bindu mark over the head of the Bindusara when he was born. That's why he is known as Bindusara. So Bindusara was succeeded by son Ashoka, who was Ashoka the Great, who has brought the Mauryan Empire into the whole country as well as outside India also, who have accepted Buddhism. From a violent ruler, he turned to be a non-violent ruler. He was succeeded by the last ruler, Bhidrat, who was killed by his own military commander and led the foundation of Shunga dynasty, Pushyamitra Shunga. And after that various other rulers came up, and then we'll read about the Guptas. So this is basically the family tree or the dynastical tree of the Magad. Now whatever I am sharing in the slide, that is only coming from your book, so please mark that. So sources to know the Mauryan. First of all, we are going to read about the sources. We are not reading about Alexander invasion, we are just directly going towards the sources. So in history there are two sources, literary and archaeological sources. First we will focus over the literary sources. There are two important literary sources which we will discuss in this chapter, from which we get a lot of information about the Mauryans. The first is the Indica. It is a foreign account. It was written by Megasthenes. He was a Greek ambassador in the Chandragupta Maurya court. So he lived there. Whatever he saw, he wrote down into this book, and it gives a lot of information over the political, socio-economic conditions of the period. So Indica described the political setup of the Mauryans, the social and economic setup of the conditions of the people at that time. So Indica, written by Megasthenes, was the first source. Second is Arthashastra, which was written by Chanakya, who was the mentor of Chandragupta Maurya. So though it is Arthashastra, but it has not dealt with economy. The Arthashastra book was basically throw light over the Mauryan administration, the duties of king, how to diplomatically deal with the situations, how the ministers has to behave. It also deals with the high level diplomacy, relation between various states. Kautilya ideal state should provide relief to the poor. So whatever Chanakya think what our ideal king has to do, he has all written into his book Arthashastra, which give us lot of information about the Maurya. So these are the two literary sources. Now we will come to the archaeological sources. In archaeological sources we will read about the Ashokan edicts. So Ashoka has a habit that whatever announcement he has to make, he used to inscribe those announcements, his orders into the hard surfaces, which is known as inscribing. So he inscribed his orders into the rocks, into the stones, into the pillars, into the metal plates, which were regarded as Ashokan edicts. So edicts are basically the official orders by the king, specifically by Ashoka, and he inscribed his order in either rocks or pillars. So we found total 14 rock edicts from Irugudi, Girnar, Sopara. One of the rock edict we found in Kalsi also. So if you get the time, you can visit there. It was written in Kharotoshi script. You can't able to make out what is written there because you don't know the script. But there is a Ashoka script. So what we get to know by founding these edicts at a particular place, we found that these edicts are a particular place. That means the Ashoka ruled is being at that particular place. That means Ashoka is ruled in the area of Uttarakhand also. So we found his edicts at various places all over India. From that we get to know that he is ruling all over India. So he used to inscribe the teachings of Dhamma, the moral teachings also of non-violence, respect for elders into the rock pillars, so that people whenever they are going from one place to another, they can read and they can practice it. So Ashokan edicts basically included the orders, the Dhamma teachings, the basic teachings of the Ashokas into the pillar surface and into the other surfaces. Now next archaeological source which we are reading are the Sanchi Stupa. So Sanchi Stupa, basically Ashoka, he adopted the Buddhism. So stupa, if we talk about what is a stupa, it is a dome-like structure. So you all know about the dome because in the 8th class and 7th class I have already told you about the dome, which is a semicircular, we can say, architecture. So dome-like structure which is made of stone or brick. The purpose of the stupa was to commemorate a sacred spot for a particular event or enshrine the relief of Buddha. So stupa is basically built over a place, the place which is hold an importance into the life of Buddha, or where the Buddha has given a ceremony, or where the relics of the Buddha, some things related to Buddha's life have been kept, and then the structure has been created above it. So stupa is basically not a temple, but it is a place where the Buddhists, they came and sit and do meditation there because they found a connection with the Buddha in that particular place. So various stupas was constructed by Ashoka, and one of the important stupa which is best in architecture, which is best for the Ashoka's time, was Sanchi Stupa. Sanchi Stupa was basically situated in Madhya Pradesh. So the stupa was also found other in Sanchi, Barghut and Bodh Gaya. So these are the important sources to know about the Mauryan period. So you can see here, this is a picture of Sanchi Stupa. There are 4 gateways. There was the entrance gate. All the gateways are well decorated with various scriptures. Okay, so first we will read about the first important ruler of the Mauryans who led the foundation of Mauryan Empire, that is the Chandragupta Maurya and Chanakya. So Chanakya played a very great role, or we can say he played a kingmaker to Chandragupta Maurya, and he played a great role in the foundation of the Chandragupta Maurya. He was the mentor of Chandragupta Maurya. So if Chandragupta Maurya was able to become king, it was also because of his capability, but with the guidance of Chanakya, who was also regarded as Kautilya and Vishnugupta. Now we will read about the Chandragupta Maurya, his conquest and his political affairs. So Chandragupta Maurya, he overthrew Dhananand, the Nanda dynasty, the last ruler of mighty Nandas, with the help of his teacher Chanakya, and he led the foundation of the Mauryan Empire. He was disliked, like we can say Dhananand, he was disliked by his subjects because he was a very humiliating king. He used to humiliate the people. So people were very happy after he ascended to the throne. Chandragupta captured the area of West Punjab and Sindh. So first he captured Magadh, and then he captured the area of West Punjab and Sindh, which was under the control of the Greek rulers. He further extended his territories by defeating Seleucus Nicator, who was a Greek king west of Indus, and gained territories of Herat, Kandahar and Kabul. So as he became the ruler, he further extended his empire towards the northern India. He was the founder of Mauryan Empire, and his empire extended up to Mysore in the south and Kabul in northwest. Saurashtra, which is basically Gujarat in west, and Bengal in the east. So he have further extended his empire by various conquests, by winning the kings, and by extending his empire. So Chandragupta has been described as the first historical emperor of India. His empire extended to the Mysore, Kabul, and then Saurashtra and the West Bengal. So he was the first important ruler who had taken pain to bind the country under one empire. Before that, there were 16 Mahajanpada. There were various independent kingdoms, or we can say there was division of power. But Chandragupta Maurya with Chanakya, they made a united country under one empire, under the Mauryan Empire. So that's why they hold an important. So you can see here the empire map of Chandragupta Maurya. So you can see how much he has extended his empire. Further, his grandson has extended his empire towards the whole India and outside India also, that is Ashoka. So now we will read about Ashoka. We are not reading about Bindusara because it is not in your syllabus. We are directly reading about the Ashoka. So Ashoka was the third and the most enlightened ruler of the Mauryan dynasty. That's why he called the Ashoka the Great. So you will read further why he got the title of Ashoka the Great. He regained in the 3rd century BC, but Bal Gangadhar Gopal Krishna Gokhale, B.G. Gokhale, he said that he lives with us today in the wheel on our national flag. So the wheel between the national flag, between the white color of the tricolor of our national flag, that wheel has taken from the Ashokan pillar, and also our national emblem was also taken from Ashokan pillar. So his symbols are today also we are following it, and we are influenced by his teaching. As a young prince, Ashoka was very violent. He was basically the viceroy of Ujjain. He wanted to become the king, but his father don't like him. That's why he became very ambitious. He was the third and the most enlightened king. He killed his 99 brothers to gain the throne. So you can see how violent he was. Kalinga, which is basically the present day Odisha war, plays a very important role in the Ashoka's life because he turned a simple king Ashok to Ashoka the Great. So the Kalinga war, it led a very important role in life of Ashoka. Like before Chandragupta Maurya, Chandragupta Maurya and Bindusar has tried to capture almost half of India, but just the portion of Kalinga, which is present day Odisha, is left. So Ashoka wanted to capture Kalinga also. So there was a war which happened between Ashoka and the ruler of Kalinga, in which nearly 1 lakh people were killed. It was a brutal war. When Ashoka saw the grief-stricken people, when he saw so many funeral pyres, his heart filled with misery, his heart filled with pain, and he thought that I was responsible for all this pain of the people. This sight has changed his mind. He adopted Buddhism. He left the path of war. He left the path of the conquest of the sword. He adopted the path of conquest of the people by the peaceful means. So Kalinga war turned Ashoka from a violent king to be a non-violent king. He gave up the war policy. He inscribed his peaceful thoughts, which were known as Dhamma. So whatever he gained from Buddhism, whatever peaceful thought he gained from the Buddhism, he has named them Dhamma. His teaching says, moral teaching says Dhamma. And whatever he is practicing himself, he inscribed those Dhamma teaching into the rocks, into the pillars, into his edicts, so that people can also read them and follow them and lead a good life. And he, other than writing down the Dhamma teachings into rock, he also appointed the officers like Dhamma Mahamatras to spread the message all over his empire and outside the country also. That's why he is regarded as Ashoka the Great. So he is not only adopted Buddhism, not only given the policy of war, he has adopted the policy of peace, adopted the policy of loving the people and spread the message not only in India, outside the country also. That's why he called the Ashoka Great. So this is the Ashoka empire map. You can see, you have seen the empire map of Chandragupta, and now you can see the empire map of Ashoka. So I have already told you that he has spread all over the country as well as outside the country also. So Ashoka's pillar and edict. This is the picture of Ashoka. This is the Ashoka pillar at Allahabad. And these are the edicts which are inscribed into the pillar. So you will not able to understand because mostly it was written in Pali language, which is not able, we can't able to understand. It was understandable by the archaeologist. Now what is the extent of Ashoka's empire, which is called the pan-Indian character of empire? So pan-Indian means other than outside the India. So pan-Indian means the empire which extend outside the India or subcontinent or united empire. Ashoka empire extend up to Hindu Kush, that is Jammu and Kashmir and Nepal mountains in north. In the south it goes as far as Mysore. Ashoka also hold control of Tamripiti or modern Tamluk, an important port of Bengal, from where ships moved to Burma and the Sri Lanka area. His pan-Indian character of his empire, that means the empire which is outside the country also, helps in the disappearance of small states, protect from foreign invasions and facilitated the trade and commerce with the outside world. So it not only helped him to spread his message of Dhamma, it also helped him to disappear the smaller state and bring all the country under one empire, protect the foreign invasion from his country and facilitated to develop the trade and commerce from outside the world. So this is the extent of his empire. Now the Mauryan administration, if we talk about the Mauryan administration, the king plays a very important role. He was the supreme head of the state. He has the military, judiciary and executive powers. He has power to enact the laws. King duties to look after the welfare of his subjects and social order. So the king has to look after his subjects. The Chanakya has mentioned that the good king is, hardworking king should be like that he does not sleep in the daytime but remain in the court the whole day for the purpose of transacting the public duty. Meghathnees mentioned in his Indicate that the king was very hardworking official and did not sleep at the daytime. So this is the responsibility of king in the Mauryan administration. Then come the council of ministers after the king. So king, he was assisted by council of ministers, like we have cabinet minister for the prime minister. So in that way they have the council of ministers called Mantri Parishad to advise the king. They advise king in appointment of governor, journal, treasuries or other high officials. Then after that they were the source of revenue. So from where they get the money? So during the Mauryan period, they get money from mines, forex, revenue from the manufactured goods, tolls, agriculture, payable for using bridges, roads, fines, license fee and agriculture. So these are the source of the money for the Mauryan people. Peace also prevailed. So judiciary system of the Mauryans were very important. They have a very good network of the spy system. Spies are basically, in Hindi it is called jasoos. So Mauryan state made extensive use of the reporters, spies to keep a check over the and keep informing the emperor regarding any kind of foreign attacks. The peace and good order prevailed within the Mauryan period because they are having good judiciary. The thefts were very rare, which shows the efficiency of ruler and people. People were very honest and the administration was very efficient. Mauryan enjoyed the prosperity by good administration, agriculture and trade. So this is the Mauryan administration. Now Ashoka Dhamma. So Kalinga War changed the mindset of Ashoka and he adopted Buddhism and gave the teachings of Dhamma. The Prakrit word Dhamma means in Sanskrit means dharma, that means duty. It holds same meaning but it has not to do anything with the religion. So dharma means the duty. So it implies concepts such as justice, virtue, morality, law and duty. Basic principles of Ashoka Dhamma are purity of domestic life and truthfulness, that whatever life you are living you have to live truthfully. Toleration towards all the people, not to speak evil of other religious faith, ahimsa, that means non-violence, and true ceremonial. Ashoka inscribed his Dhamma's teaching in rock, pillars and all over his empire. He also appointed special officers to spread the teachings of Dhamma called Dhamma Mahamatras. Ashoka gave up the royal hunt and stopped the killing of living creatures for the royal kitchen. So he totally gave up the non-violence which he is practicing. He asked his people to practice. So these are the teachings